It's funny sometimes how things connect. I got a call from a client I had a number of years ago, one of my favorite clients ever, yesterday, talking about culture and how they can do that. She's retired, but it's still just stuck in her mind that how you can build culture in a business and how culture is aligned with success in so many different ways. So if culture is something you're wondering, is it important? What is it? How can I best maximize my culture to make my business better? The show we have for you today, you're going to want to listen to it. Welcome to the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Harlock, creator of KeyHire Solutions, where we help small businesses grow with our talent. Before we dive in, I do want to ask you, we do these shows for the benefit of the small business owners. So if you know someone who would benefit from this, please share it, forward it, send them the link, do whatever you can to help us spread the word. Also, be sure to connect with us. We love to interact with our audience and our business owners. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search up Corey Harlock. I always say this. I think I'm the only one on there. Or you can follow us on YouTube, or you can subscribe or follow us on the podcasting platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Just show the love. Help us out. Help us spread the word. Okay, let's get into this. Our guest today is Janneh Wright. And Janneh is the founder and CEO of PRIMUS Business Management, where they've spent over 2 decades helping small businesses and not-for-profits turn their brilliance into sustainable infrastructure. Matt, let's bring on Janneh. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So we're talking about culture day. You're sitting up in New York, right?
Yes, I am.
NYC?
Yeah, close to it. I'm on the outskirts. I'm in Long Island.
Oh, okay. Is that a different borough, or is that a whole different neighborhood?
It's a different neighborhood. So like there's the 5 boroughs, and then the closest one to me is Queens. I'm right on the outside of Queens.
Got it. So are you a hockey fan, Janneh?
No, I am not.
Because your team would be the Islanders out there. It might be a good
Correct.
time to be a hockey fan on Long Island.
Yeah, there's a lot of hockey fans out here. This is what they do: skating, ice skating, and skating is a really big thing out here.
Yeah, people that listen to this show know I'm a hockey fan. So I always turn everyone's location into the hockey team that is in that area and ask if they're a fan. But hey, today we're talking about culture. And I remember when we kind of got to know each other and we're talking on the phone, you had a very interesting concept about culture. And we always like to kind of start with definition, kind of defining what are we talking about today. And so I would just want to throw it out to you. What is culture to you at PRIMUS, and what does it mean? How does it affect businesses? Just kind of give us the overarching description.
Sure. So when we talk about culture, we're talking about culture in a way that it's of the experience people have when interacting with your organization, right? Whether it's an employee or a customer or a shareholder, what's that experience? It's like the soul of your organization. It's what drives how things move smoothly, how things get accomplished, how people feel when they're inside the organization is part of that cultural divide that we designed.
So culture kind of happens inside the 4 walls.
Correct.
Yeah, and I've often talked to my clients about core values are kind of what your clients experience,
Yep.
And culture is what your employees experience.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both for us, right? Because there's a part of culture that your clients experience, right? Because if your clients understand who you are, how you treat your clients, how I think one of the greatest cultural examples everybody talks about is Chick-fil-A, right? When you walk inside Chick-fil-A, everyone says hello to you in the exact same way, and that's culture, and it brings out something from your clients. It bonds all your employees. So now everyone in that room inside those 4 walls are in the same mind space.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And so you take it a step further and you break culture into some different categories. Walk us through that.
So for us, when we talk about culture, we talk about culture as it's more than just a haphazard thing, right? It's a leadership tool, right? I know a lot of people think that culture just happens. And one thing I always tell people is if you don't design the culture as a business owner, your employees will, right? And you don't want that, because then you have different people from different experiences coming together to create a culture that you may not like,
Correct.
honestly.
Or
So
the inverse of that is, if you're a leader who, if you're a real competitive individual and rule your people or manage your people hard, and you put a piece of paper on the wall that says we're kind, we love our employees, and those aren't your actions, right? The culture will default to the actions of the leadership and not the
yes,
piece of paper on the wall.
yeah, culture is all about the behavior, right? It starts from leadership down, right? So however the leader, how they communicate, how they deal with pressure, how they deal with issues, what they say is always much more important than what's written down, right? Because that interaction is what teaches your staff. You have organizations. Back in the days there was that, was it the not Jerry Springer, the Seinfeld show with the cook, right? The way
Oh
he
yeah,
talked to clients, the way he built a culture of anger and animosity inside that company. Whether he did it or his staff did it, it was going to be the exact same way.
right.
So when
He
you're in
trained his
leadership,
he trained his customers how to interact with him.
exactly,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad, it's always going to come down from that leadership, and whoever's in charge and how they interact with both customers and employees will dictate the culture in that organization.
So it's words and actions outweigh words on paper stuck on a wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime. I think getting those two things aligned, where, and then one of the parts of my 3 C's is the consistency part, right? So if you have a culture that is not consistent with what you're saying, but you have it written down, it's not going to work. Vice
Right.
versa, it's not going to work. So you have to have those two things really in line to make sure you build the kind of culture you want.
So now people are wondering, you just said one of my 3 C's is consistency. Let's run through the 3 C's so we don't leave them hanging.
Sure. So the 3 C framework is, it starts with compliance. It goes compliance, culture, and consistency. And when we talk about the compliance side, is like the structure of your organization, right? It's the foundation. So when we work with clients and we work with individuals, we always start with, let's make sure that you have everything that you're supposed to have in place to run a business really smoothly, right? So whether it's the legal part or policies or just where you save things, these are part of the compliance part, and that's the structure. Make sure that you're really in position for growth because you have everything you need to move forward. Then we talk about the culture, which like I said, is the experience of the organization, is the soul, is the heart, is like the really emotional connection side of your organization. It's how people experience your organization, is that culture, whether it's a employee, a staff member, employee, a customer, or a stakeholder, right? Banks, but you and your banker has a culture. They know
Right.
exactly what you're doing. They know how it's being done, and they trust that what you're saying or what you're doing is going to prove that they're right in supporting you. And then the last part is the consistency part. So me, you take all the culture and the compliance, you wrap it in a nice little bow, and then you be consistent. It's that engine for your company. You keep it doing it the exact same way, week after week, month after month, and it's going to make your organization grow because now you're building trust, you're building reliance. I was talking about, if I'm a big burger eater, and if you go to a restaurant and the burger is awesome on Monday, but on Friday that chef leaves, a new chef comes in, and you don't have that recipe written down perfectly, and that you eat that burger, you're upset about it. That's the consistency. You're going to lose trust with that client. You're going to lose trust with that employee. So that consistency part is what really drives the force of your organization forward.
So it's funny. I went for lunch the other day, and I went to, I have 2 or 3 places I kind of frequent for lunch. And this one is probably the least frequented or the newest addition to the list, but I usually walk in, say hi to the hostess, and walk into the bar, and either go sit at the bar or at a table in the bar, because it generally seat yourself. And on this occasion, I sat down, and this young lady hostess came up to me, and she said, just so you know, if you want to sit at these tables, you have to check in with the hostess. I was like, okay. And she goes, so it's okay this time, but next time, make sure you check in. I was pissed. I'm a 50-year-old man. And it was like 1:30, right? I come from hospitality. I get it. And if it was 12 o'clock and it was busy, I would have stopped and said, hey, is it cool if I grab one of those tables? Place was empty. Yeah. And I get chastised by this hostess. And, I really wrestled with, in my mind, I thought I should probably tell the manager because it's not good, right? It makes me not want to go back. But
And
I
that's
was
part of
sad about it. I would have come out like a complainer because it was really kind of like burning at me. I didn't have time to marinate on it, you know. But that's, you know, if their culture was, yeah, there's just a way to say that, like,
yeah.
hey, you know, you're cool here today, but next time, you know, if you could just check in with me so I can make sure I take care of you and we get a menu over here for you, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. No, there's several examples of culture in that conversation, right? One is the first time you went in and they let you sit there, they designed the culture with you. You can walk in anytime you want and sit in any chair. If that's not what they wanted, they should have like had that conversation during the first time it happened. And I'm sure you're not the only person who does do that because that's how it's built. That's how it's designed.
That's how the bar works in 99% of restaurants. The first come,
Exactly.
first go and grab a seat.
Exactly. And then, as you said, the way you respond to someone builds that kind of culture. And that is, especially in hospitality, that is one of the most dangerous parts of organization. If that culture of how you respond to a client in hospitality isn't right, people are not going to come back. There's too many options. I mean, I'm not coming back to a rude place when there's like 3 other restaurants on the same block. So if you don't build that properly and train your staff properly of how to respond to certain things, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble.
And I think that really, well, that would pull in all, if you just, I didn't intend for this to be an example, but I think it's a cool example.
It is.
If you pull in your 3 C's, so if you have a hiring process
Yes.
and a culture and you want consistency, the making sure that the compliance to the hiring process, to make sure we're hiring the right people, making sure they're a match to and they buy into our culture, and then they're consistent in the delivery.
Yes.
You can make the argument this person is a mishire because they don't get the culture.
They don't get the culture. Yeah.
And that's cool because every culture is perfect for someone. If your culture is we're competitive, we're cutthroat, we yell and scream, some people are going to say, man, I thrive in that environment. If it's competitive, I'll just be top dog and no one's going to yell at me and you can be wildly successful. But I think you have to be honest about that up front. And some people are going to say, hell no, not interested. And some people are going to say, hell yeah, I love that. Right?
It's funny because I think in that example, the question of like so I'm going into consultant mode looking forward, right?
Go. Yeah.
Where did that come from? Did that employee see the owner do the same thing, and now they're following, and now that's the culture that ownership created?
Interesting.
Or is it a wrong hire where that person does not get the culture that the employer trying to create?
Right.
So you got to figure that part out as you start to figure out how you
and
kind
there's probably about 100 points in between there, right? Maybe they saw their boss do it, not the owner. Maybe they saw the person who managed the door do that on a bad day or whatever it is. Maybe they're having a bad day and it's a 1 in a million thing. It all counts.
Yes.
It all goes on the scorecard.
It all counts. That's why that training part. I mean, as you said, one of the things we talk about with culture as well is like it doesn't just start when you hire somebody. It starts with the hiring process, right? When you're writing out that job description, are the things in the job description? I know people love to put you need 5 years of experience and you need this degree and that degree. But for us, when we look at the job description, we talk about cultures. Like, does that really necessary for the culture you're trying to build? Can you find somebody who doesn't have that but still deliver the kind of culture you want? So when you're looking at the job description side, you have to start there with the culture of your organization and make sure that it's implanted into what you're looking for in the job description. And then when you carry that over into your hiring process, what are the kind of questions you ask to help ensure your culture, right? You ask questions like, how are you with a rude customer, right? How do you respond to a rude customer? That would tell you how the person can react when something happens. And that's what you try to ensure that when you hire someone that they're going to fit into the culture you want rather than become a disturbance to that culture.
Right. So when my friend Angie, who I alluded to in the intro, called me yesterday or asked, can we jump on a call? I think her question was something around when you hire someone, or how important is culture to the hiring process? Or what is the most important thing you look for in the hiring process? However she asked the question, I was like, it's culture. Like, you need to make sure people are aligned for longevity, for performance, and whether they're with you 6 months, a year, or 10 years, depending on what their role is in the company, and are they there to get some experience to move on, and you're aware of that. getting people aligned to your culture in the door. It's that whole kind of high performing asshole, someone who's got a ton of experience, but is toxic within the business versus someone with potential who lacks that experience, but fits seamlessly into the culture and is an advocate for your culture, right? They're a model of people who are like, wow, they really understand what we're doing here. You hire the person with, depending on the role, if it's an entry level, mid-level position, you might hire someone with less experience and more potential who's a great culture fit versus, well, this person's got all the experience in the world, but man, they're going to be a nightmare in our business and cause all kinds of trouble.
No, absolutely. I've been in situations where, it's like different teams inside our organization, and the leader came in with a contrary culture to what was already there. Right. So the team was very much like a really communicative team. They help each other, they support each other, they work together. And the owner hired a micromanager. Within 6 months, people started quitting.
Janneh, how many people have you interviewed for jobs?
I probably passed a couple hundred. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm into the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard one person say, I love to be micromanaged?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think you have to look at it, and that's part of, even going on a tangent, like the idea of the right questions to ask someone, because you kind of have to like be Inspector Gadget and pull certain things out of people's conversation, how they say certain things.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the guy who got hired was a great talker, right? I smelled the bullshit, but the owner didn't smell it. And I was like, this is not going to be good. And as sure as is, when he got in there, it was not good. So it's like, you got to ask the right question. And, the generic questions about your resume, like my response to most people when they talk about hiring, you already went through the resume. You like what's on the resume. You're going to ask questions now that gives information that's on the resume. If you ask somebody, you have a 30-minute interview and you ask them, tell me what's on your resume, you're wasting time.
I agree, 100%. Yeah. Now you brought something up that I want to go back to. You said you brought a new leader into a department, and I think even within departments, there's subcultures.
Yes.
Because every department has a different leader who's a different person with a different personality, and they build a team that they feel they can mold and get the best out of. Yes. And it's an important thing to understand when you're changing leadership. Yes, you're going to hire that new leader to the culture that you've built for the company, but that individual department may have a subculture, and I'll use the simple examples. They may be maybe it's sales, but they're super competitive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's IT and they're super collaborative. Maybe it's a different area and they're like super geeked out and they're encouraged to learn and try new things and bring ideas. Then you bring in a leader and they're like, yeah, let's just do it the way we're supposed to. We don't have time for any ideas. And that kind of changes things.
It does. And it gets uncomfortable for everyone, right? Because no one wants to be in a place where they don't feel valued, that they're not getting the kind of kudos for the work they do. No one wants to be in a place where someone's telling them what you're doing is wrong all the time. They're going to leave. And, every disruption of a team is it's a large disruption, right? You may think that, somebody leaves today, it's fine. But that person leaves today, it's going to cost you money, time, and effort to hire somebody, train somebody, and then get them into the systems you want. So when you build a really functioning team, that the culture is working, you should do as much as possible not to disrupt that, right? Because if they're being really effective, you want to make sure that they're there and they're doing what they need to do and they're happy and they're comfortable in the organization.
And so I think we've segued really nicely into the mistakes. So, you have your 3 C's of compliance, the culture, and the consistency. So when you talk to business owners or not-for-profits, not-for-profits are really kind of up against it because their pay scale is often lower and they're trying to hire diamonds in the rough a lot of times, or just experienced people who are maybe in that kind of legacy part of their career and they want to give back. So they'll take a role that maybe doesn't pay as much as they're used to because they're kind of set up. But what are the mistakes that you see business owners or leaders make when it comes to compliance, culture, and consistency?
I think the number one mistake is ignoring it. Right? That's the mistake I see. Like it's when when you go from, and this is an issue with all small businesses, all small medium-sized businesses, when you start to be successful and you start to grow as a leader, your mind has to shift, right? Because you're either going to become the bottleneck in your company, or you're going to become the problem in the way of its growth.
That's a great point.
When you're doing founder, like, the founder theory, right? When you think about founders and as they're growing their business and they hire that first person, but they're still doing everything themselves, is a concern. So when we started really talking about these 3 C's, is a way of helping them let go of certain things, right? Because we talk about, okay, all the stuff that's in your brain, and me and you are in the same way. When we started this company, we knew every phone number, we knew every deadline, and there was nothing written down on paper.
Correct.
When you hire your first assistant to help you, how are they gonna know all that information?
Yeah.
You're gonna sit down and write these things down, put them in order. So when you talk about those 3 C's, like compliance, let's get the compliance stuff on paper. Let's make sure that everything that you're gonna need is in the right place. When you talk about culture, it's like, okay, how do you interact with this person? Who is this person? How do you hire your very first staff into the organization and make sure that it's a good fit, right?
So I told you I'm an interrupter. So when you said hiring the first person in, often the default is my neighbor, my friend, my neighbor's friend, my neighbor's cousin. Hey, they're out of work. They're looking for a job. I think they'd be perfect. And we take this, oh man, look at this experience they have. They're going to be perfect. But we don't take the time to say, hey, is this going to be a good fit for both of us?
Yes. No, I say, like, I always joke about, sometimes I walk into organizations and it's grandma doing the accounting, right? You're not going to scream on grandma until she doing something wrong. So it's going to be a problem right there. That's like, it's like, because it's grandma, you're changing up the way you respond to certain things, and it may not be the way that you normally would do business, right? So even when you're hiring family and friends, that culture becomes even more important, right? Because most people can't turn off the boss relationship at 5 o'clock and go back to family relationship.
Correct.
Right? If you say something bad to them at work, they're gonna be mad at you at home all the time.
Yeah.
But if you design that culture, let them know, this is how I work, this is how I do things, this is how I expect you to do things. It kind of helps build that kind of relationship to ensure that you can isolate your family friendships and all those against the work behavior, because you don't want them to creep into each other, because then you're either going to lose a worker or you're going to lose a family member, and you got to make sure you do that properly.
And that's rough. And I think that's where your consistency comes in too, because if you have consistent feedback for 90% of your team,
yes,
one person gets a different style of feedback or a different level of accountability than everyone else. That causes that within the culture of a company. That's, to me, I'm kind of stealing your words here, but that's the biggest mistake a business owner can make, is letting someone get away with stuff because insert reason. They're a family member. They don't make much. They're just doing it to help us out. They know where all the bodies are buried, and I have no idea what they do, which would be shame on the business owner, versus all these other people who are like, why are your numbers down? Why is our quality down? Why are our on-time deliveries late? And now we're holding those people accountable, but this person over here is not being held to the same standard. One of my expressions I have with my business owner is wait and see equals watching good people go.
Yes.
If you have someone who you're not holding accountable, people that crave accountability are generally high performers. Yes. And if you show that some people aren't accountable, they're going to say, why am I doing all this and holding myself accountable and wanting to be held accountable when these key people are not? I'll go find an environment where they're going to hold everyone accountable. And then that person who isn't as strong, who you're not holding accountable, just got infinitely more valuable because you just lost like a key player. And now this person who does things late, maybe on time, maybe to standard, maybe below standard, if they do them at all, is your go-to because you just lost a really good person.
No, absolutely. I was talking to a client a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to one of his subordinates. So one of the things that we do when we talk to clients is that we tell them that we're going to have conversations with your staff, but we're not going to tell you who, what, or what they said. We're going to sum it up into a ball for you to understand. So that way we help the staff remain as confident in us as we are. But a conversation came up of, in dealing with a client, there's a certain rule. The client calls, we tell the client the rule, the client gets upset and starts screaming and they want to talk to the manager. So we pass on to the manager, and the manager gave the client exactly what they wanted, right? And I was saying, like, do you understand what just happened here was the manager's fault, and you just broke culture, you just broke consistency, because now, one, you made your employee look like they don't know what they're doing. Two, set a new standard that if a client starts to scream, we just give them what they want. So all these are things that's going to damage your organization in the long run. So it's like, it's not just the employee part. It's like how you respond to things is part of your culture, and how you keep consistency and show that you're backing up your employees is part of that culture as well, to make sure that the business survives and starts to grow as it needs to grow.
That's an amazing point. And so, a total aside, how important do you feel it is for the employees in a small business to feel like the owner has their back?
It's 100%. It's 100%. Because, in most small businesses, regardless of your job description, you're doing your job description times 2, right? Yeah. And if you feel comfortable, if most employees, when they feel comfortable and they feel respected and valued, they're going to do that times 2 without a problem. When they start to feel devalued, when they start to feel like you don't have their back or that you're taking advantage of them, they're gone, right? Because like, I'm doing a job with 2 people here already, and you're not paying me any more money, and you're pissing me off. I'm done. I'm done. I gotta go.
And I think one of the other benefits of that is when people feel empowered and supported, and they're gonna feel more open to bringing ideas, even if you don't take them. Because if you're a good leader, you're gonna say, hey, great idea, can't do it right now. We just don't have the time, the bandwidth, the budget, whatever it is. Or it could be, I understand your concept. We tried it, didn't work, but hey, man, keep the ideas coming, because I'm always open to good ideas. So there's a bunch of things that come with that kind of support, in my experience.
Like a valued employee becomes an entrepreneur, right? That person who's inside the organization, who sees a problem, like, the whole idea of entrepreneurship is like, you see an issue in the world and you try to fix it, or you see a project and you want to make it better. If you have an entrepreneur inside your organization, they're going to do the exact same thing, but they're not going to do it if they feel devalued. They're going to do it if they feel valued, if they feel like they're part of a team, if they feel respected. They're going to try to plug any holes in your workflow, which is going to make you and your organization grow and do better.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Any other kind of mistakes that come to your mind? I think we've covered a ton of them, maybe specifically or non-specifically, but is there any other big mistakes that come to mind for you?
I think one of the big things that we look at in that compliance section is, the research part of it, right? The the government loves to change their mind or add new things every 15 seconds, it seems. And one of the things of a mature business is forgetting to do the research, looking backwards, right? Looking at what's new coming in, what has to happen. And that compliance section is what that's for, right? You're always scanning and seeing what new rules are, what new processes are. Because when you do that, it's not only just protecting you, right? It's not just about legalities when you talk about compliance. It could be about systematic changes in your organization that can make your business grow even better. So when we talk about compliance of what needs to be done, how you do it, I think one of the mistakes that a lot of business owners make is not constantly searching for new ways of doing things, not constantly searching of new laws or rules that comes out. Because like right now, there's still companies out there who don't use AI. I don't like. I'm like, listen, this is where this is going. AI to me is like Google for us back in the days. It's going to change everything, and if you keep ignoring it, you're going to fall behind everybody else. Yeah. So if you're not constantly looking for those things, that's not a part of that compliance part, and it goes right into culture of like, how do you use these? How do you make sure it's being done properly? And then into the consistency of making sure it's documented and that we're doing the same thing over and over again, really to help the growth of the organization.
Love it. Good points. So let's move into some advice. So I think we've danced around a whole bunch of things, but if you had to distill it down to 3 to 5 pieces of advice, who someone is here thinking, because a lot of small business owners think, we're too busy, I got to do this. And whether you formally define your culture or not, your business has a culture.
Yes.
Agree?
Completely.
Okay, cool. So if you wanted to formalize the process, or you haven't utilized culture the way you could in terms of your 3Cs, or people want to get back on track and kind of say, okay, this is more important than I thought. Maybe I need to pay more attention to it. What are your top 3 to 5 pieces of advice for them to kind of get started or get back on track?
Sure. So the first one is take your time, right? There's no rush. Don't try to do that. Culture is a huge thing. The 3Cs is a huge thing, but start slowly. Pick something that you want to start with. Start with your vision statement. Start with your mission statement, and make sure that it's something that it's really defining what the culture is for your organization. So take your time, find one object and start there, and then just go from there. Next object. Don't try to do it all in one go. It's going to be a lot.
And just to jump in there, when you're doing that as a business owner, I'm trying to frame this like a question without making it an opinion, but is it important for the business owner to make it reflective of who they are versus how they want to be? Does that make sense? Sometimes they make them aspirational, and it can feel a bit like they're not true, or they're not being honored.
I'll say this: your vision statement isn't a 10-year statement, right? You could change it every single year. So I wouldn't do it to who you want to be, because that might just be way too aspirational. You'll never get there, right? Do it to who you are now, and that idea of who you want to be, you can grow into that, and then adjust your vision statement next year for that new person that you are. Yeah. Right? So like just take it where you are now, because this is where you are now anyway. And try to do 2 things at the same time, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah, good. I like that. All right. What other advice do you have for us?
The second one will be, in that cultural part, thinking of it as, we don't have time for this, right? The culture and the consistency part saves time in the long run, saves money in the long run, right? It's like the adjective of delegation. I could do it now myself and get it done in 15 minutes, but then I have to do it every time myself for the next 10 years, and then I can't do anything else. Or I can spend an hour training somebody how to do it now, and then every time it comes up from then on, I don't have to do it. That means I just gained an hour every single time. So that same thing with the culture is like, if you spend the time to build it, it becomes a leadership tool for your organization that gives you more time to do things that you need to do as a leader of your business.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I guess the third one would be, I learned this quote a while ago, and it helped me get to where I am. When it comes to like the founder, the owner, how this cultural 3Cs work, is the idea of today versus tomorrow, right? What your job is as the owner, it should supposed to be about tomorrow, what your company's going to do tomorrow, how you bring in revenue, where you're going to go in the future. Today should be somebody's responsibility who's managing what's happening right now. When you start to cross the two, it becomes the stress and the burnout and everything else, because you're trying to do too much. So when you spend time to separate those 2 things, right, that 3C model will help those who have to do tomorrow get all the stuff that you have in your head on paper, and the 3C makes tomorrow today run really simple and smoothly, exactly how you need it to run. So I think that's the third one, like that, defining yourself as the leader of tomorrow for this organization, and have the team be responsible for what has to happen today.
That's a really good way to put it. I often phrase it as strategic versus tactical.
Yes.
Like, the owner, you want to be visionary, you want to be strategic, you want to be thinking about the future and hire people to take care of the day-to-day. But I really like the way you put it. That makes a lot of sense, and hopefully it resonates with some people. Was there any other advice, Janneh?
No, I think those are great. I mean, there's just 1,000, right? But I think that's one to keep in mind right away.
Man, that was awesome. Really appreciate the conversation. I think there's a lot of good information in there. Hopefully people got some value out of it. If people are listening and they're thinking, man, I need to reach out to Janneh and pick his brain or do business with him, how can we reach you?
Sure. The easiest way, you can go to my website and contact us that way, which is primusco.com, or you can email me at Janneh, what's my email address? Jwright, WRIGHT, at primusco.com again. So Jwright, WRIGHT at primusco.com. And I'm always willing to talk and have conversations with anyone.
So I was just going to say, the reason your email didn't pop up there is Matt wasn't ready, so he was typing through it. And then I think we had your LinkedIn too, right?
Yes, that's a good way. You can see what we've done, what we're doing. We usually do a lot of really good posts about 3Cs and about just business development. So yeah, just follow us on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, man. Thank you. There you go. Janneh Wright. Smart guy. That was really, really good information and a fun conversation. Hey, I'd like to thank you for tuning into the KeyHire Small Business Podcast. If you got value out of this episode, share it with a business owner who can use it. Please help us spread the word. Also connect with us. You can connect with me personally on LinkedIn. Just search up Corey Harlock. You can connect with us on, follow our station on YouTube. We'd love to have you subscribe there, or follow or subscribe to our podcast. We're on LinkedIn, or we're on Spotify. We're on Apple, wherever you listen. Just make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button. Help us spread the word and get the word out. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, stop grinding, start growing.